like we can make cuts, and like
Oh.
if you get distracted or whatever, it doesn't matter because we can
'Cause
edit
you can edit.
and put it together.
Editing is
Have you ever met Cameron?
I have not. I don't think I have.
No? He's great.
I was
He does pretty good.
really, yeah. Your stuff is that you guys talk about is powerful. It's the first time I've ever heard men talk about things I thought only women really.
Yeah, we're getting that a lot, and like,
it's amazing.
Yeah, we're like, yeah, like we really are connected.
Yeah,
really are more alike than self-image. Like the way that we talk about self-image, we're getting a lot of feedback from the female community on how that's all fucking whatever. But basically, you know, what it was like, what happened, what it's like now. So
okay, so my name.
Yeah, it's weird, huh? Once it starts rolling,
there's a camera on me. Hi, I'm Ruthie. I'm sitting here thinking about my story. I'm Ruthie. Talk about what it was like.
Yeah, where'd you come from?
I was born in Alaska and raised in Alaska. I come from a really great family. I have beautiful parents. My father's passed on now, but I have a lot of good childhood memories. And I had a pretty great community for the most part. And I started messing around with drugs and alcohol when I was about 14 years old. I figured out when I got sober. I got sober when I was 44, and I did the count and realized that I'd started when I was 14, and I was 44 when I finally come to this place of, I gotta do something different. I have to. And so when I looked at the fact that even though I hadn't been a horrible drunk or a horrible drug addict since I was 14, that was not the case. I had been struggling with drinking and using since I was 14, off and on. And it progressively got worse. And it got to that place of where I was just a mess. When you look at 30 years of your life, when you take a look at, I've been bouncing around with this crap for 30 years. It's pretty mind-blowing, and I was just done. I didn't want to do it anymore. It's like, I got to do something different. I got to listen to somebody who might know something. So I started out as, like everybody else, teenager, partying, and but when I was 18 years old, I got pregnant and got married. And from that, I had 3 beautiful children. And drinking was a part of my life, but it wasn't, although I always knew that if I drank, that things were going to go down. Like, I just innately knew that. I knew that that it was just kind of a Russian roulette kind of thing. I could feel it from a young age that it was out of control every time I drank. But when I was having babies and doing the mom thing, all that, it wasn't something that I did a lot of. So it wasn't a problem. You know, like a New Year's Eve party or that kind of thing. But then, second marriage, 2 more kids. Around that time, it started to pick up a little more. Not a little more, a lot more. And I was with somebody that was also an alcoholic. So his disease was much more progressed than mine. He drank at a way greater rate, way faster, way harder than I did. So it was really easy for me to kind of go, oh, he's got a problem. he's really sick. I'm not so bad. And that was sadly how that marriage ended. Was we couldn't make things work. We were both unhealthy, both using alcohol as a coping mechanism, and it was destroying any kind of relationship that we had. So we got divorced. So right around that same time, though, you know, I had many times said I was going to quit drinking because of how bad it would get when I would go out and do something crazy or whatever. But I had at that time not gotten into any trouble. It was a factor in the marriage problems in the first marriage and second marriage, but it wasn't. I didn't drink every day. I didn't, you know, I went to work Monday through Friday. I was a mom. I did all the things. But there was just that, there was a problem. And yeah, I always struggled with depression. I didn't know that it was depression until I was 28 years old. It was around 28 years old, after I'd had 3 kids. I was really in this dark place a few times where I couldn't sleep. I had terrible insomnia. I found in those years a couple things that worked for me. One was exercise. So I got really addicted to running. I love running, and being outdoors was extremely important to me. If I get outside in nature, I feel better. I just do. Of course, still though, in that time frame, my drinking is starting to increase. So I'm not really putting 2 and 2 together necessarily. Like, I'm not going, hey, probably shouldn't be drinking, and I should be looking more into seeking some kind of spirituality, which is what running and is like a meditation. You know, when you run, you're like, you're breathing. That's what running does for me. And then of course endorphins, and your body feels good, your brain feels good. Being in the mountains, the air, the sun, meditating, having some time alone with the great whatever, you know. I knew back then that those were things that were something good for me. But I also really like to drink, and drinking worked. Settled my soul down, got rid of my racing thoughts. The depression was like racing thoughts and insomnia for me. For some reason, depression is like inability to function. That wasn't my depression. And so I didn't think that I had depression, but I did. I was struggling with self-worth, not feeling good enough, feeling like I'm not capable, which is so ridiculous, because we're all capable. We're all capable of something, of more than one thing. But that's what spiritual sickness does to you, is it makes you feel like you can't.
Yeah.
Like, I just can't. I can't be like those people. I can't do those things. I'm not good enough to do those things. So, after marriage number 2 ended, I had some back problems, and I went to the doctor, and that's when the game got upped. Yeah, lots of pills, and it was crazy because it's changing. They're not doing that so much anymore, and that's so good. But this was 2002-ish, somewhere in there. And so yeah, they prescribed me medication, and that was like vodka and a pill. I could take that and go to work and nobody knew. And so I could be loaded all day and feel like, empowered is what it felt like. And then that began a 10-year descent into hell. That's the only way I can describe it, because the opiates led to cocaine, led to crack, led to meth, led to all different kinds of pills, more drinking, and then just this, horrible spiral into this massive inability to cope with life at all, without putting some kind of substance into my body. Are you allergic? Okay, good. So I went from, this young, intelligent, capable person raised with morals and dignity and ethics and some form of spirituality. Drugs and alcohol took that person, and I became something that I never thought I would ever be. I started getting arrested, fighting, DUIs. I never got popped for drug use, and that's a miracle. And I became an IV drug user. I would put drugs into me any way that I could possibly put them into me. It's like, whatever you got, I'll use, and however I need to do them, I will. Very soul sick, physically sick, had hepatitis C. My liver was not good, And it all came crumbling down that last year I was out there, to the point of my family thought I was going to die. They didn't think that there was any hope. They stepped in and took my two youngest children, which was, after that happened, I had been in and out of the hospital, seizures, just sick, really sick. And I hadn't worked in 3 years. I hadn't sang or even listened to music in quite some time, which is weird because I'm a musician. So hadn't been outside, hadn't been, just really sick. So once they took my two youngest children, which I thought was like the worst thing that could ever happen to me, was actually the best thing that ever happened to me. It was the best thing for my family to finally just put those boundaries up and say, we're not going to watch you do this, and you're definitely not going to do it to the kids. That I always say I didn't hit a bottom. I just kind of drug along a bottom for like a year, because they always make it sound like it's like this one big thing that happened and then you start going back up. No, I like splatted and then just like, it was just painful, like being drugged by a chain behind a truck or something, you know, for like a year. It was just like this horrible time. I always say that that was hell. Disconnection, complete disconnection from any human being, any soul. I couldn't feel. I remember seeing people, I didn't come out very often, but when I did, I remember seeing people and wondering how did they do it? How do you be happy? I didn't know how to do that anymore. So, a long story shortened up, I ended up in Utah. Came here to visit my two youngest children. I had been thinking about suicide on the daily. And I think somewhere in my mind, I was kind of thinking I was going to say goodbye. Or there might have been a glimmer of hope that if I left the place that I was in, maybe something different could happen. I don't know which it was, but I left Alaska, flew here, still crazy out of my mind, had just left a psych ward. Why my middle-aged daughter said, yeah, come see me, I don't even know. I don't know why she was gracious enough to, I guess she probably hoped the same thing, that maybe mom would get better. I couldn't maintain any kind of sobriety, and so I ended up in the psych ward again here, very suicidal. And the psych ward sent me to, they suggested a place to me, and I did it. I went to this place called the Women's Retreat House. And I spent 4.5 months there. And that began the journey that you and I were just talking about. The journey of me figuring out how to do this thing for me. And the first thing that worked for me, I mean, initially when you get sober, that first however long, it's different for everybody, you're just kind of stunned, you know, just kind of, I don't know, I remember saying, all right, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to go get my life together, and I'm going to go do all these things, and it's going to be okay. But then after some time there, I started to realize that's not how this is going to go down at all. I need to relearn how to do life. And I had never said that before. I'd never said that to myself. In the past, when I'd tried to get straight, I'd always thought I already knew how to do life. I just need to be clean. I just need to not drink. But I got this. Like, I got life. I know how to do it. What I discovered is that that's not true. What I need to do is learn how to do everything with some tools and some ideas that I hadn't really ever incorporated before. And so I did. I started to learn how to do that. And I started to watch people that were happy. And I that's what I wanted more than anything, was, what are they doing that makes them so happy? And I started to notice a couple of things. They were all very different people with different socioeconomic status. different races, different backgrounds, different jobs, different, some were straight, some were gay, some were old, some were young, some were guys, some were girls, but they had this thing going on, this one common thing, and that was that they have given their life to service. They do service, not as like a token, like once a year I'm going to go on Thanksgiving and serve food to the homeless people. Not that. Like every day kind of life. Somehow, some way they were always available to help somebody else. They're the happiest people I've ever known, and they're the happiest people I've ever been around. And to this day, that's who I hang with, is people who live their lives that way, because that's what makes people happy. I always, whenever I got clean and sober for short periods of time before, I always thought it was going to be the relationship that made me happy, or the car, or the better job, if I just made more money, or if my family would just treat me better. I had no idea that all of those external things were not the things. If I was skinnier, if I was in better shape, all that. If I have the house. None of those things ever kept me sober. And so watching the people do this, I finally found a truth. Like, okay, I see what's going on here, and I want what they have. So I did what they did, which was 12 steps. And it worked to get me clean and sober. I had a problem in the beginning with the word God. I don't hate God or anything like that. I grew up in religion, and there were so many things about religion that I had come to understand as an adult that don't work for me. We'll just put it that way. My mom is religious, and I love my mom, and it works for her. She has a belief and a faith in something and some ideas that work for her. I don't believe in what she believes in. Let's just put it that way. I don't believe it. I feel like there's a bigger idea. And so I'm happy that it works for her and that she's good with it. But when I got sober, I knew I can't believe in what I was scared that they were going to expect me to believe in this like boxed idea. And I was already not going to do that. And so what I did, and this is what I was going to say earlier, coming back to what we were talking about earlier, is I started praying for truth. I started just asking the universe for truth. And how I came to understand my own concept of any kind of higher power, because I was fretting over it. I was fretting. How am I going to do this? They say I have to believe in something, and I don't believe that way. And I want, it's not a rebellion thing at all. I'm not trying to be rebellious. Yeah, I did have some bad experiences in religion and in the church I grew up in. I had some bad experiences, but it wasn't even that. It was just more of like, I just don't believe that anymore. I just don't. But I was sitting on the porch one day fretting over this, literally fretting, just like, oh, what am I going to do? Because they say I got to do this.
I do know.
You do know, right?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And so fretting, I don't know what to do. And all of a sudden, this wind just came out of nowhere, just like this wind. Just, how sometimes like a wind will just pick up? It just like this whoosh. And there's all these tall pines around me. And I felt it, and it was fall time, so it was like a warm wind. And I could feel it on my skin. And it was like comforting. I liked the feeling. And then it happened again. It's beautiful, warm, fall, hard but gentle at the same time, wind. And I could feel, and I look up, and the trees are moving like this. And I'm just kind of enjoying that, and I'm feeling the wind, and all of a sudden it occurs to me, I don't know what wind is. I don't know where it came from. I couldn't explain to you scientifically anything about wind, but I know it's real. I can't see it. Can't see wind, but it's moving the trees. So it's real. It's something that I have no idea how to explain, but I can feel it and I can see it. I can see the effect it's having. And that was it. That was all I had. All of a sudden I had this feeling of peace. Like, that's all I have to know. Whatever the thing is, the big thing, you know, and the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous calls it the great reality, spirit of the universe, creative intelligence. The list goes on of all the different words you could use for whatever it is you believe in. And it says God a lot. But that moment helped me be okay with using the word God, because that's what it is to me. It's something I can't define to you, and I don't want to. I don't want to define it. So that's how that started. And then I started saying, okay, well, that feels cool to me. So how else can I learn a spiritual way of life, or heal my spiritual sickness? Because at that point, that's what I'm finally understanding. It's like, I'm so spiritually sick. I was full of anger. I was full of a lot of years of drug addiction and hurt and pain that I'd caused other people, and hurt and pain that had been done to me. And the steps are a good process, obviously, for helping me deal with all that. But how do I grow? What do I embrace and what do I let go of? And so I started saying, show me the truth. I just want to know the truth. And when I say truth, I don't mean truth for you.
Right.
At all. I meant for me. I just want to know, please, universe, show me the truth for me, because I need it. I need to know what the truth is. So from that day forward, anytime someone handed me a book, I read it. Anytime someone invited me to some, whatever, Reiki session, or Course in Miracles, or group thing, or a church, different church, I would go. I would try it. I'm like, I'm just going to try it and wander through all of these things, and whatever works or sticks is what I'll work with. And so that's how I got to find my truth, which has been amazing.
Yeah.
So we were talking about step 11, basically, and we're talking about how the 12 steps of the 12-step programs that are out there are amazing. It helped me very much to get moving and change the way I live. 12 steps, the people that were helping everybody, that's what changed me. So I got to a place of, I call it like a conversion, in a sense. You come in being very self-centered, very selfish, thinking me, and then you work through this process, and then at the end you go, oh, it's not about me, it's about you. And that oneness. It's like, if you're hurting, I'm hurting.
Yeah.
If you're healing, I'm healing. That's where I find the spiritual connection the most, is with other people and doing this thing. So I went on to keep seeking my truth, and found yoga. I practice yoga, which has been not only great for me spiritually, but super great physically. As an ex-opiate addict, I can tell you that yoga's medicine for the body. Like, if you haven't done it, you should do it.
I got 6 straight weeks.
You do it? You've been doing it for 6 weeks?
Saturdays, yeah.
Nice. How do you feel?
Yeah, it depends on my ego. I know that it's the right thing to do, but I'm really self-conscious of it and really upset about how out of tune I am. So I'm gonna keep going.
Keep going. So
that's
what. So I didn't know that when I started it. I didn't know, because I'm so performance-based, that I went in going, okay, I'm gonna go to yoga, and by the end I'm gonna know how to put my foot over my head and be all skinny and like it's gonna have those benefits. That's not at all what happens in yoga. it's a complete breakdown of ego. Because I've been doing it for 3 years and I still can't put my foot over my head, and I don't think I ever will be able to. But now I know that's not the point. And I wrote one time, it's now turned into it's no longer what can I do in yoga, it's what can yoga do in me. That's what it becomes. Yeah. Healing. So can you put your foot over your head? Or
I can't even do the pigeon pose yet.
Right.
But I know what it is.
It's still working whether you can do the whole pose or not. It's releasing tension and releasing old stories, which is the greatest part.
I like that.
Yeah. I mean, I cried a lot the first few months of yoga. Did you? Yeah. There's yoke, to yoke is what yoga means, to yoke. So mind, spirit, body. All about that. Mm-hmm. Became a Reiki master and a Karuna Reiki master. Karuna is about compassionate action. And when I took that class and got attuned, there was something about it definitely changed me. I see and understand when people are in pain a lot better than I ever have. I used to see bad behavior and kind of judge people. But now I've come to a place of like, I see bad behavior and my heart hurts for that person. And I never thought I would be that person to have that kind of compassion, but it helps that I have a history and I know that when I was behaving badly, it was because I was hurting badly. But I wasn't always this compassionate. I definitely see and recognize when people are in pain, and I want to help them. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. What can I do? Is there something I can do? That's a huge change from where I used to be at. And music I'm a musician. I write songs. I have a band. I've been playing music since about 1 year of sobriety. Around Ogden. But about 2 years ago, I finally decided I wanted to do my own. I was playing with other people, and that was great. It was really great. And it's like there's this great myth out there that you can't have a life outside of the rooms, that you can't be a part of society, which the books don't say that at all. But for some reason, some people think that's a real thing. Like, oh, you can't do that. No, you can. Promises are real, and I play in bars, and I hate play music with people that drink. I have boundaries about that kind of stuff, mostly because I don't want to be around people that are getting loaded. That's not a real conversation at all, and it's not even real music. At a certain point, they're kind of off in their own. So I don't care to play music with people that are going to be loaded, but I'm a performer and I like sharing my songs a lot. So I do that wherever I need to do that. If I'm getting paid, it's good. So, and then of course nature. So one of the things that happened in recovery is that I found those things I talked about before, like exercise and nature, so good for depression. And so around 2 years sober, I got off of all meds because I had been diagnosed, over the years with good reason. I had tried to kill myself a few times, and I did struggle pre-drugs. Postpartum depression was one that took me down hard. I struggled with that stuff, hormonal postpartum stuff. As a little kid, when I was a little kid, I had insomnia. So, but around 2 years sober, I was feeling so good spiritually, not necessarily physically. I had to go through Hep C treatment, and physically that part was hard. I wasn't feeling good from the Hep C. My liver was a mess, but I was so happy. I've never been this happy. in my entire life, just joyful pretty much all the time, even though I felt terrible physically. And at the end of that Hep C treatment, I talked to my doctor about coming off of, I said, I kind of want to try life without this bottle of pills. And I want to see what happens. And he said, if anybody is a candidate, you are. I think you should try it. He said, you know the signs. If it's getting dangerous, just come talk to me. But look, just try it. So I haven't had any antidepressants since then. And that's cool. It hasn't been like I'm just like this gloriously happy person all the time. It hasn't been like that. I went through perimenopause. Holy mother of God, that's a terrible thing. Women, we have to go through some stuff. It's not fun. But I went through it, I think I'm on the tail end of it now. And I'm not at all.
Hi, y'all.
Hi, it's my roommate.
Hi.
I'm ready to go to bed. This is Megan.
Hello.
This is Willie.
Hi, Willie.
Hi.
Oh, is Shadow hanging out with you
Shadow's
guys?
doing a podcast
Are
with
you
me.
conversing with these guys? Oh, good. I'm going to bed.
Okay.
I am pooped.
Are you?
You coming with? Okay.
She thinks she's the star of the show.
That's so cute that she's hanging with you guys.
Oh, here she comes.
Is that her cat?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know what I was saying, so.
I can relate with so much of what you're saying.
Well, talk.
So much of it.
Yeah.
So, what's the name of your band?
Well, I just started. So the first band we landed a name, Nothing Special, because we've been throwing names around for 3 weeks and we were tired of it. And somebody said, well, it doesn't have to be Nothing Special. And I said, that's the name. And they all started laughing. And then they were like, okay. So we called ourselves Nothing Special. But we have since reformed. And now it's just the same guitar player and I, but a new rhythm section. So now we're called The Shenanigans.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's on your Instagram.
Yeah, and I'm going to start a whole nother social media stuff for the new band here like this week. I need to
Okay. So
get on that.
do you want to give me that? Because this will probably go on. We'll shoot Sunday, and this will go on that. But give me that information, and we'll put it on in the bio so that people can find you.
Absolutely.
On it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of it.
Are you good?
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Do you think it's good?
Yeah.